In many ways, a house would like to be unique, to cater to the desires of those who live in it afterwards. With the challenge of my mother being from the Philippines, my father being Swiss, you couldn't imagine the array and the contrast of ideas that I had to deal with. It is making connections between cultures, between building and place, and also not forgetting about the context, not in terms of the tropics, but also the built history of the Philippines. My name is Gabriel Sarmiento-Schmid, and this house was a close collaboration with Ed Ledesma and his staff. The house is not an exercise of nostalgia. It's truly an appreciation of our built history, an acknowledgement of that, a deep research of that, not just mimicking the aesthetic of what we imagine a Bahay na Bato might be today. The way we built this house and the way we designed each element in terms of the way it is laid out, why the roof is sloped, why we have a double shed, has everything to do with from either context, client, or history. And then finding the sweet spot between those two makes something contemporary. We're looking at the past with today's modern materials, with new ways of building and forgotten ways of construction. When you approach the house from the street, it feels a bit foreign because all you see is this tunnel and this large copper screen above. It feels a bit sculptural. It feels a bit, non-residential, but I really enjoy the curiosity that heightens in people that pass by. What is that? How do you even enter? Where's the entrance? Once you enter the tunnel, you have the outside living room to the left. You have the main door on the right. So you're able to enjoy the lanai before even entering the actual home part of the house, which makes people feel quite comfortable. The whole lower level of this home is a relationship between the heavy and the light. Having the ground floor for the excess program, guest rooms, the game room, the lanai, these are all things that aren't necessary to the day-to-day living, but are a support program that helps this house kind of feel a bit more spacious. Even the tunnel cutting through the space. That's a lot of square footage, but it has a lot of benefit not only to being able to enter the house from the center, a centrifugal plan, but then also in terms of ventilation. You get this nice cooling effect when you're sitting in the lanai. So working very closely with Robert Yee, we invented this woven screen. But what that allows is fine details. The copper screen being slightly more transparent on the level of the eye when you're standing and sitting, and becoming again more dense on the top and the bottom. Choosing copper I found really interesting because not only is it a beautiful material, but in 10 years from now that maybe the facade will be completely green. What I find very interesting, and it's an architecture that kind of just existed in the whole region of Southeast Asia. This very simple structure above the ground to be as naturally ventilated as possible. The roof has to be sloped, it has to be rainproof. Those three elements are key to designing somewhat in the tropics. Right, a living room is very specific. It's where the TV is. It's where you entertain guests. But a bulwagan in the Filipino context is an everything space that you do truly everything in. It's a large, flexible space where everything happens. It's where you sleep, it's where you share meals, it's where you gather as a family, it's where you sit alone. And that idea of having a space like that on the upper level, where my parents can truly be together but separate at the same time, was really important to them. My dad enjoys being amongst other people, but doesn't necessarily feel the need to contribute. So in that way, he was able to, with the size of the room, and the transparency of the room, but obviously with some movable elements where we're allowed to close off sections, open up sections. The toilet is this floating island, being in almost like this porta potty that is in the middle of the large space, is not only a funny experience for those who use it, but it also gave me an excuse to create an element in the space that helped create some hierarchy. In spaces like that that are so grand, these elements that are almost like objects in a field create an interesting composition. The less walls you have, the more the furniture has to do. And we want something new. Just moving a sofa around facing another way changes your living experience completely. Sometimes wasted space is good because it allows one to breathe, it allows one to contemplate, it allows one to be creative. Or maybe I want to put a chair there, maybe not. Maybe I want to leave it open, maybe not. You know, maybe we want a grand piano at one point, no, maybe not. The Bahay ng Bato, not only is it in tune to nature, but it invented such interesting proportions and material and purpose. The lower floor being something heavy and cool for storage and livestock, which is directly taken from the Bahay Kubo. And then the upstairs being this light timber box that is just all about having air flow through. This large open living rooms, usually very dark, but that makes sense because, you know, air conditioning wasn't a thing and shade was super important. And what was key was having these oversized operable openings at the end that kind of framed the views nicely and was the source of light, but not too much light where you were burning up. And I love that a house still allows one to do that.